Thank you. Hello and welcome. I'm Becky with Malvern Books. We're thrilled to be hosting this event celebrating the release of Emily Bludworth de Barrios' new book, Shopping or the End of Time. We're also very happy to welcome Laura Villareal, who will be reading with Emily tonight. I'm going to introduce Laura first, as she will read first, and then follow with an intro for Emily. Time permitting, we will have a short audience Q&A, so if you're joining us via Zoom and if you have a question, please enter that in the chat. Laura Villareal is a 2019-2021 National Book Critics Circle Emerging Fellow, a 2020-2021 Statler Fellow, and the author of the chapbook, The Cartography of Sleep, as well as the book, Girl's Guide to Leaving. She works on an interview series at Friction called Writers Talking About Anything But Writing. Her work has appeared in Grist, Black Warrior Review, Waxwing, and elsewhere. Laura?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that intro, and I'm so happy to be celebrating Emily's book tonight. I'm going to read a couple poems from my book, Girl's Guide to Leaving, and then I'll finish with two poems that are brand new. Girl's Guide to Leaving. In the beginning, there were white owls with the faces of women, the ones your grandmother warned you about, the ones your mother said were only Mexican folklore. But now you see them everywhere. As you drive late at night on a road that turns sharply like a wind-up toy, reminding you it doesn't belong to you and never will. You know the remedy. Hug the curves until they croon for you, like your grandmother's music boxes. You've always known how to charm a place into loving you back, but for now, this state, this road, and even the sky doesn't belong to you. Your want sparks a miracle of white feathers. Your want cores you awake each morning. You come from a long line of wandering men, men who cut night in half just to leave a city with an infant cooing in her sleep. In the beginning, women sold their hearts for freedom and were vilified in legends. You're the first girl in your family to never stop moving. Your legend is that you write your own legend. Heartless girl, if you don't keep moving, any place could become a cage. And you've already escaped once. Luck doesn't occur twice, you know. Desert note. On survival, I know only this. When land is inhospitable, you must uproot entirely, tumble until you find better. Land to put down roots. Listen, this part is important. You must never let yourself try and find the first place you took root. You must live like a tumbleweed. You must never call out in the desert blue night, but you will anyways. I know this. You'll cry out as the coyotes do. You'll weep like the cacti, beg the wind to take you back, and you'll survive when no answer comes. And then just because the holiday is coming up, I'm going to read my poem called Thanksgivings. Thanksgivings, San Marcos, Texas. Around noon, the sheriff pulled up to my aunt's house. My cousins had been shooting guns around back. Bullets fell like ash in the neighbor's yard. My mother told me to stay inside. I didn't understand how anyone could hang a Confederate flag in their living room. I sat on cowhide underneath a pair of antlers and tried to understand keeping the dead as trophies. I was 9. My skin was the same color of deer pelt, not bone white like my cousins. I wandered the property by myself. As I wandered, I found bones shattered among the wildflowers. I looked back, got caught on the fence. Cacti grew near the barbed wire without blooming. Like Pappy, I was disinclined to speaking. He only spoke to remind my aunts and uncles. We didn't cross the border crossed us. By this he meant, like cacti, we only thrive because of our shallow roots. San Antonio, Texas. I remember teeth in the pozole, smoke clouded like carnations from my uncle's Marlboros. My mom said it was hominy, not teeth. My imagination outgrew my body in this house. Monet and Renoir filled the walls in the den. No cousins here, at least. Everyone looked like me, and Grandma had an out-of-tune piano I loved. I played Ode to Joy until Pete, her dog, howled. She always told me to stop feeding the stray cats under her rose bushes. My brother played Game Boy on her ivy green couch. After dinner, I wound all the music boxes and sat outside watching the sun burn the skyline into vine charcoal silhouettes. And then one last one from my book. Before you visited, I lockboxed every 50-cent piece of vending machine jewelry, still inside their acorn capsules, each one a childhood prophecy. I scattered holy water and salted the boiling pan until it turned ocean, vacuumed the bird's nest inside the fireplace, still full of boxfur nebula-colored eggs, cracked like bone china, gold filling the crevices. I've always filled time this way, but I left the front door open and cats gathered on the lawn. They left koi on the porch in piles and hid mice in the flower pots. I would have flooded the street in candlelight had I known you'd be here so soon. I would have hidden my fists in my pockets until compressed diamonds. I would have traded diamonds for starlight. I would have made the world give itself up to you. I would have welcomed you to never leave. And then 2 short poems that are brand new. This one's called Speargrass. Speargrass. I uproot speargrass and remember dusty childhood afternoons. We threw the sticky spears at each other before burning our butts on the metal slide. It was so hot back then, but it's hotter now. We recycled because we were told to care. The world was ours to inherit. Our individual efforts mattered most. We didn't know about money, profit, the fuel scorching the future. We played kickball even though we had no bases, but we all knew exactly where each was. Childhood is knowing and agreeing on what isn't visible. Adulthood is having real bases and disagreeing that they're there. And final poem, Miss the Forest for the Trees. Miss the forest for the trees. The green-brained ball is a horse apple. My mother tells me, there are many things I cannot name. I age into unknowing, older, less blazing-eyed, wonder is microscopic, but grief, crystalline and innumerable, shines everywhere. Like the park I spent my youth in, I have become a manicured wilderness. A new bridge and paved paths, the bordering forest now opens as if calling me in. So I go. Stories warn us to be wary of the forest's invitation, but I once heard a lion's yawn through the low cedar trees, and I answered that call too. We return to what we know, even if it's become unfamiliar. As I walk between thin trees, I find a shelter made from their felled companions. Sometimes I mistake shelter for the trees. Sometimes I wonder if you understand me at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. That was great. Always lovely to hear you read. Next, we'll have Emily. Emily Bludworth de Barrios is a poet whose previous books and chapbooks include Women, Money, Children, Ghosts, Splendor, and Extraordinary Power. Her poems have appeared in publications such as Poetry Review, Harvard Review, Oxford Poetry, and Cincinnati Review. She was raised in Houston, Cairo, and Caracas, and now lives in Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia, with her husband and 3 children. Emily?
Hi, thank you, Becky. Thank you to Malvern Books, and thank you to Becky for hosting this reading, and thank you to Laura for reading with me. So I'm going to read 5 poems from the book. I'm going to read the first poem in the book, and then the book has 4 sections. I'll read 1 from each section. Ravine. Even though we lived at the edge of a great rupture, it was difficult to tell when the world broke. For 100 years, our voices, our thoughts, had been connected by long wires. Then there weren't any outhouses anymore. Somebody knew how to make biscuits, light a fire. Then they didn't. I felt so sophisticated all of a sudden, putting store-bought candies in a special candy dish. I lacquered my nails. I had a sweetheart. I was a sweetheart. Somebody's voice was etched into the grooves of a silky black record, and at night and in the afternoon, in the golden light of the house, I etched that voice into the contours of my life. Songs ran over me like ribbons of silk. There were curtains and carpets, formica, polyester, polyurethane. Yesterday, I opened a letter from you. I played dominoes with you, creamy quadrangles clacking like bones, fingertips against the blackened, scooped divots. We bought a one-story ranch-style house. A mimosa tree was covered by its festive pink tassels. Making ice cream on the concrete front stoop, hand cranking the milk and salt and egg and vanilla, each of us in turn, a wet stream of condensed water leaking down the steps. I captured you in silver molecules, real silver taken from the earth, silver arranged in our likenesses on square plates of paper cut with a scalloped edge. The neighbors used to come visit with us. We went to the moon. I kept my lipstick in a special metal case. Your leather blazer, your mustache, your answering machine, your fax machine, the commercials on TV, my buddy and me, your ashtray flecked with gold, your orange telephone, your pale green chairs and cat, recorded on slide projector film, your adoration of films, your haircuts. We were at the Bend. It was like a shopping mall. It was like a Baybrook mall, like a landline, like a Star 69, like a caller ID, like an elaborately, intricately, lavishly set designed interior of a store. Such an intricate trick that we felt we were finally entering ourselves, our human inheritance, the glossy, dark brown, almost black mahogany wood of the furniture sold at the Bombay Company was redolent of the English country manner we thought we probably ought to deserve, the diverse and variegated fragrances and deep green countryside curlicues of Bath and Body Works were like wonderful afternoons eating strawberries out of picnic baskets while sitting on a gingham cloth, afternoons we'd never had. Then we were wearing all kinds of synthetic cloths. We were tugging at our bodies and daubing ourselves with elixirs, and then we loved to write or type long, lavish notes to one another. We sent them in the mail or to each other's email addresses at Hotmail and Yahoo.com. A telephone call sometimes ruptured into a sudden steam of fax machine screeches. My postcards, chosen from a twirling wire rack, written, poured over, postaged, addressed, sent. 1-800-506-9511, 615949310135. The calling card my dad put money on for me to use in high school, the number and the passcode, numbers I remember, used in afternoons to call from payphones. I didn't have another phone, so convenient to have this calling card number memorized if I didn't have a quarter. Remember now the black receiver, the thick silver cord jointed like an umbilical cord, thick silver buttons, something like an airport, feeling official. A cell phone was convenient. Age, sex, location. To send a little message was a lark. In the dark. I was in bed and my phone made a little noise. You sent some words to me and I read the message in the dark, entire body horizontal. Makeout club, message boards, live journal, Friendster. Some words were unlike the others. They were underlined and glowed a brilliant blue, hot to the touch. It was senior year at William and Mary. It was 2004. Simultaneously, we each received an email inviting us to make an account with a website called thefacebook.com. And so we returned to campus, stunned, collectively connected, feeling seen, feeling the eyes on us, feeling pricked by the touches of strangers' eyes. Everybody knew what we were doing in the dark, our photographs and glowing blogs. And on Post Secret, strangers posted secrets. So in 2008, we put our faces inside our phone. And anyway, a little bit at a time, the real world ended. The first section is called Women. With pleasure, the young men. With pleasure, the young men dismantle the young women. With pleasure, their sick, slick grins drip over the wet idea of humiliated flesh. When a woman dyes her hair, when a woman has her hair dyed, or chemically straightened, or chemically permed, there are searing, singing, singeing thorns as the edges of the scalp burn. A damp, blunt scent, a wrong scent, a blonde scent, an odor like a mistake was made. Only a dope would slather herself in such an odor. A beautiful dope, a beautiful door. At the steps of the mall we entered to transcend. Who could really transcend? The words of young men. Wet t-shirt contest, fingering, titties, whore. The next section is called Money. The culture oriented itself towards shopping. The culture oriented itself towards shopping. The culture invented a flat, vivid world to sink into. As one sinks into a bath and closes the door and runs the warm water with a book or a glass of sharp wine. Inside the white noise of water, out rushes any immediate concern. Some lives have been scrubbed of immediate concerns, or mud, or weather. After work, some shopping. For work, some shopping. Running to the store and picking up some food, or hiring a contractor or someone for the lawn. Purchasing new clothes, which might confer some attractiveness and dignity. Materials which could convey one's inner goodness, attractiveness, and taste. Having the best qualities and correct values. Best thoughts are elaborately patterned. Worst thoughts rise up as a self-righteous ego, scarlet and furious and fuming into fingers. Or alternatively as a sheet of empty area, wherever the personality goes when the activity ceases, when it is neither buying nor preparing for a future purchase. In the car, the environment is leather and black and smooth, sweet odor. Serenity is composed of quality materials. It has contours which are a pleasure to take note of. As the wishes rear up on the way to or from some shopping, a little appetite leaks out. So obvious, in fact, it need never be discussed. A feeling of perpetual lack is the water in the river we float down. I flow from the lip of one day to the next, as if lounging on a cool, dark river that's composed of what I might purchase. In the mall, the stores are horizontally stacked into discrete dioramas of hypothetical lives. I sample the hypothetical lives. I unwrap them from the quality tissue paper and boxy bags with hard, sharp creases, black and gold and pink and peacock blue. I imagine there is a certain kind of person somewhere who wears these clothes with grace. A person could exist who carries grace in their chest like a warm, affectionate orb. I've expected to eventually become. I've been on the verge, really, of emerging into grace and ease. Kindness, effortlessness. I like to be among the everybody is carrying the fierce fire of their souls, hid with some intentional or inadvertent packaging. The next section is called Children. My pregnancy was a long and happy nightmare. My pregnancy was a long and happy nightmare, during which I ate pint-sized tubs of ice cream and walked around the block, becoming more tubby and unwieldy as if living in the skin of a drum, wielding and propelling my belly, feeling dreamy and druggy in the suburbs under the sun. I walked around the block and watched episodes of The Twilight Zone. In 1960s America, it was silver and gray and all the people had disappeared. The tick of a clock rang out. Men spoke in voices that were urgent and clipped. Women languished in the oppressive heat of a wet, dying sun. In the twilight zone, the world was always dying. In our imaginations, the world always dies, drowned or burned or infected or contaminated out. By imagining a death so huge, hoping to infuse our daily lives with sweetness or urgency by contrast. The world dies, how sweet is this morning. The world dies, how urgent my life. There is a belief that life should be spent leaning forward as if squinting into a bracing wind, as if life's juice or marrow or interior liquid can be drained or squeezed or sucked. If the world dies, I hope it will be a cinematic death. A beautiful woman laying down in green grass in a dewy forest, a golden gray mob tearing itself apart, full of great emotion. When the world dies, I would prefer it to be without disappointment, shame, or regret. Shame hangs on a man's neck like a terrible bell. Joaquin, when he arrived with no shame upon him. Instead, he carries a sweetness or urgency inside him. For example, he is pleased with the bath's warm water. He is pleased with his small, naked body. The world, when he looks out across it, is a field of universal truths. It sways or rings with unplugged truth. The last section of the book is ghosts. It is sad. It is sad that your thoughts don't mean much, like how a movie theater projects colored lights into your head, and afterwards, in the bathroom, face to face with yourself over the sink. That's still you, in the grim and gray reality over the sink. Crumpled popcorn smeared into the carpet, the colored lights in your thoughts soaring, like a very advanced camera, photographing mountains or clouds. Also, it is sad when your brilliant mind has nothing of substance to settle upon, like a high schooler in the suburbs, thinking complicated thoughts about lip gloss, a complicated web of mascara and glossy magazines, and one particular boy. It is sad when the brilliant thoughts look cheap or brittle in the light of day. It is a little embarrassing to recognize your thoughts as cheap or brittle in the light of day. Some brittle thoughts in the crisp light of morning. It is sad when the thoughts that breathe in you gloriously wither and escape, as evidence having left just a faint whisper of smoke, or an eminent or auspicious feeling. It is sad to have been abandoned by your own brilliant thoughts. They well up in you and then are gone. You are composed of 100,000 slivers, welling up and gone, welling up and then gone. Thank you.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Emily. It's amazing to me how much it's like Laura wrote in the chat, how much love, how much nostalgia that evoked. And that was really, I felt the same way. The way that you talk about the things like burning the back of your legs or burning your butt on the metal slide or burning, I mean, I was right there, and the phone, and then the old pay phones with the big metal cords, and remembering all those calling card numbers and having that and feeling so free because you have a calling card and don't have to worry about having change and all the rest of it. It's just, you're great at putting us right there in that by just using a few words and doing that. That's beautiful. That's quite a gift. Did you, so was it, if anyone has any other questions, be sure and put them in the chat. I did want to know, it looked like, you know, this book was had a series of different sections, obviously, that focused on different things. About how long did it take you to write this particular book?
This question is for me?
Yes, Emily.
So I started writing this when my son was born, maybe when I was pregnant. No, must have been when he was born. And he's about to turn 8.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have 3 kids and I had them kind of like stair steps. So I was interrupted a lot. And I think yeah, I don't know, that somehow has to be part of the process.
I bet it does. So was the pregnancy section kind of a combination of all 3 pregnancies, or was it one particular one that was the long and happy nightmare?
That one was about my son Joaquin, my first son. But I have other poems about my other kids too. Yeah.
That's great. And Laura, just a question for you, and while we get some other things in there, one of the things that I loved, again, some of the lines that you had, the idea that you were calling hominy teeth. I I thought that was great. At first I didn't understand what you were saying, and then when you said it the second time, and that it was that your mother said it, they're hominy, not teeth. And I thought, oh, that's right, they do look like teeth.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I would see it just kind of like there, and I was like, that looks like teeth. And it was something that always kind of stuck out to me. I feel like a lot of times my poems are informed by memory or things I remember as a child that are just like a little off.
Well, they're great. And it was I and the idea of the acorn case around the prize inside, I mean, that brought boom. I remember looking at those quarter things that you'd put in a quarter and get a prize. I remember being a kid and looking and thinking, wow, I wish I had a quarter. I could get something really great.
Yeah.
And those,
I always love those machines.
they're great. They're wonderful. But so anyway, I think that, and Emily, yours about the top, a little bit at a time, the real world ended. And that was, I love that line because I thought it was really wonderful when you're talking about all the things that we did so much in person, and then you come back. Did that really happen where you had this Facebook thing right at a semester break, and you came back and these people were in Facebook?
Yeah. I don't know, I guess that's what they did, was they got the email addresses somehow negotiated. I don't know. They got colleges to automatically enroll people. And so I was someone who was in college at that time, in one of the colleges that participated. So all of a sudden we were all enrolled, and it felt like, we were being monitored or watched or something, because there was the real life, and then like this ancillary life that was happening like alongside real life. And even before Facebook, a lot of us had live journals, but it was a little different because like we were all friends, and we were really just following the people that we literally knew in real life. And so it was kind of like this sort of like, I don't know, like gossip, rag or something, where we would all write about these things that we all knew about and people we all knew about. And that was happening at this, kind of below our real lives. And then once Facebook happened, it was like kind of like on top of our real lives. And then I feel like it superseded it in some ways.
Yeah.
I was saying the other night, like, I felt like social media was this like room that where like interesting things were happening, like a club with like a lot of music. And then we all we're like, what's happening in there? And we all went in to this room, and we were like kind of like interested by what was happening. And then when we exited the room, like the real world had disappeared, and like it was there, but like there was nobody out in the world anymore.
Because everybody was inside this
Yeah.
Facebook world or fake world, whatever, the social media world in there.
Yeah.
It does feel that way sometimes. I feel so out of it. If I step out from social media, and I have kind of stepped away from Facebook and other things, it's like, and I'm not, I don't really get active on a lot of these other platforms very much. I kind of got out of the habit, and I feel I'm very out of touch with things when I'm talking to our staff, who are a lot younger than me, and they have more of a shared experience that's just on that I miss, and it's very interesting in that way. So, and I apologize. I mentioned burning the butts, and that was actually Laura's. That was Laura's on there, but there were a lot of things in that section. There are a lot of things where you really bring a lot of the nostalgia in, Emily, and I love, was that line, I've been on the verge of grace? Was that what you'd said before? Yeah, I thought that was, I think, yeah, I feel that way a lot. I've never made it. I feel like I'm on the verge. I don't quite get it. So I love that.
Yeah. The promise of shopping, the promise of advertising, that it's going to make you whole. At least that's how, I don't know, feels. The ritual of it and the parts of it that they really are pleasurable. Like malls having this like architecture, like a temple, or like a cathedral, and feeling like clean and perfect, and the temperature's regulated and everything about it is soothing. Yeah.
Even the smell. I mean, they used to say they pipe in vanilla smell and stuff to kind of get you in the right mood for shopping and eating, all the rest of it. So yeah. Let's see, we do have, Ben has a question. Could both poets talk about the relationship between the past and creation of self in their poems?
I guess I'll go first. I think I'm always thinking about the past, like past selves and the creation of that, like person I was before. I don't know, it's kind of complicated. It's a little tricky. The poem self is never actually quite exactly me. I think I'm always interested in what I remember, even if it's not quite right. I know that like memory is fallible, so I know that I'm always interested in kind of like that, and like maybe I don't know, and letting the poem lead me to some knowledge or a memory, and then the creation of like the self through that little discovery.
Emily, did you have anything about that?
The question was about the past and the creation of the self.
Right, the relationship between the past and the creation of self in your poem.
I usually try to think, well, I some of the early poetry I was exposed to was in church, and it was being read sections from the Bible. And so that the concept of kind of like a prophet-like voice is something that always appealed to me. And so I know I did read some things that were like pretty obviously like personal, autobiographical, but throughout the whole book and my previous book to this, I'm interested in kind of like a non-individual self, and trying to write from the point of view or toward a place of kind of like a universal, like that is kind of abstracted. And I know that you're told that you're supposed to not do that, but that's what's kind of interesting to me. Like poets like Robert Herrick, who wrote, one of the metaphysical poets who wrote about these like abstract human emotions in a really plain and direct way. Like that kind of writing is interesting to me. I don't know if that answers the question or even addresses it, but yeah, like an eternal, like shared human self. It's what I'm interested in. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Do we have anything else from anyone? Oh, Ben, just thank both of you for that. Now, can you tell me, this is always a question, right? So what's up next? Laura, it sounds like you had some poems that you read for a new thing you're working on. Do you have a book coming out or book in the works here?
Yeah, I do. I've been writing a lot about, I guess I've been calling them my garden poems. Over the course of the pandemic, I've kind of expanded my garden, and I've been curious about everything that I don't know, because in previous times I hadn't spent that much time outdoors, and there's often things that I don't know the name of, like what is this plant or what's this weed or what's this bug. and then just kind of observing the way weather moves in a different, like I'm more attuned to it, like seeing the extreme cold or like the extreme heat that we had this past summer. So I'm also thinking about eco-poetics and writing towards the climate crisis.
Mhm. It is interesting when you actually go, I mean, it's like I spend very little time outside, but it's like when you do and take the time to really look, it's pretty amazing. And it is, there's a lot I don't know. But during the pandemic, we spent so much time inside and just looking out, and it was like, what is that animal that's in our yard? What is that thing? It's like, oh my God, we have foxes. Oh, look at that. We have 3 foxes and they're running around. I mean, it was always so incredible because I never looked. I had dogs and they went in and out, and that's the only thing I looked at. So yeah, it's very interesting. It really opens your mind. Emily, what about you? Do you have something else in the works?
I have another book that I finished, and it's 3 long poems. It's called Rich Wife. A few pieces have been published. And so I'm interested, at least when I was writing that, I'm done writing it, I was interested in like a very long sustained poem. And then, you know, it's like, I kind of felt like I made a machine that like people aren't necessarily interested in being inside a poem for like a super sustained period of time. So I kind of feel like I made a machine that is like not necessarily a ton of people are going to want to use, but and as far as like what I'm doing now, it's kind of open. I moved to Bolivia a year ago, and that was pretty disruptive, and so I feel like I'm still getting settled there.
I bet that's a big move. Where did you move from?
From Houston.
Oh, so you did move right from Houston. Wow, that is a big jump, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would take me a while to get used to, I think, just to get accustomed to everything. Plus, you have the 3 kids to watch out for and your family. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Well, the sustained poems, I mean, I guess, we have ones, historical ones where they go very long. So you never know, it's like you put that poem out there, people might really enjoy it. You already published a couple of them, correct?
Yeah.
So obviously it sounds like that's a real departure for you. You normally do a lot shorter ones, shorter poems.
Well, I read some that are a little long, right?
Yes.
Like that are a few pages. So these are like 40 pages. So like maybe they take like, I don't know, 20 minutes, 45 minutes to read, depending on the poem.
Wow, that is quite a difference.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that Laura Rockhold says that she believes she's seen some of that work, Emily, and she thinks people will love it. So good work. Sounds like you have a positive, at least you have a fan. And I'm sure all of us enjoyed that. Anything else from anyone? Well, I guess that's about it. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's been lovely hearing from both of you. I really appreciate you doing this and letting us host. And again, just mentioning that we do have both of the authors' books in Malvern Books. We're open Tuesday through Sunday, noon to 5. And we hope to see you at the store because we'd love to have you purchase some great books of poetry from Laura and Emily, as well as many other authors that we carry, fiction and poetry. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah.